Thank you for joining us for this episode of In Conversation. I'm Judith Rinehart of the Rinehart Gallery here in Seattle, Washington. Today, we are thrilled to have artist Susanna Bluhm in the gallery to discuss her current body of work and her exhibition, The Monkey Rope, which is on view in the gallery through August 7, 2021, and online at jrinehartgallery.com. This engaging exhibition of abstracted landscapes is an exploration of Susanna's experiences while traveling through the United States over the last 4 years. In a bit of a departure from our previous episodes of Artists Chatting with Artists, I'm delighted to have Dr. Ann Poulsen from the Rinehart Gallery interviewing Susanna and leading the discussion, along with a very special guest. Join me in welcoming them to the gallery, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Susanna Bluhm. I'm an artist based in Seattle. I have a show up at Rinehart Gallery right now called The Monkey Rope.
Hi, my name is Ann Poulsen. I'm the Associate Curator of Collections at the Rinehart Gallery. And this is Samson. Hi, Samson. He's my Great Dane from Emerald City Pet Rescue.
So the show is a body of paintings that are part of a bigger project I'm doing right now called Red Country, where I went to as many red states as I could. So I did a series of paintings about my experiences in each state that I went to. They are somewhat abstract, somewhat landscape-based, and very subjectively my own experience.
Hi, I'm really excited to talk to Susanna today about this series of paintings that she has done and the personal aspect of them, questions of identity, and these moments that she's captured and how she's filtered her own personal experience through to the resulting paintings that she's then shared with us at the gallery.
Okay, hi everyone. Hi Ann, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm so excited to be here in the gallery with you and with all of these beautiful works. So I was just hoping we could start by talking a little bit about the context for these works. I understand that they were created while you were on a trip.
Yeah, many trips actually. Yeah, so I did these paintings, or the paintings are based on trips that I took to red states while Trump was president. The paintings in this show are based on experiences that I had in 7 states: Idaho, North Carolina, Florida, Nebraska, Kansas, North Carolina, Missouri. Did I say all of them?
Yeah, I think, okay.
Idaho, yeah. So yeah, my goal is not to paint representations of the states in any way. They're more just abstract landscape-based paintings on my own personal experiences in the States.
Okay, and so I'm really curious as to, did you go on these trips with this being the goal output, or is this something that kind of changed as you went along on these different trips?
With what is the output?
Like, were you planning this particular series? Did you have this in mind? Did you know how you're going to go about it?
Yeah, so the series is part of a bigger project called Red Country. So these aren't all the paintings in the series. I still have 8 states left to paint, and there are a few that I painted before the work in the show. But yeah, so it's this big project called Red Country where that I decided to do when Trump was elected. I have done a lot of projects where I have kind of, where they've been based on my negotiating myself in different places. And so when Trump was elected, I wanted to find a way to negotiate my place in this country and my sense of our country and feeling strange in our country, and it feeling strange to me. And so the main idea was that I fall in love with places, And I think landscape and place is sort of how I orient myself in the world as a person and as an artist. And so I can't hate a place that I've been, and I can't hate a place that I've painted. So I was hating our country after Trump was elected, and so I had this need to do this project where I would be able to go to places and kind of use painting like as a way to do something in addition to painting. So, I mean, because they're very much paintings more than anything. But I was interested in how I could use painting as a way to do something else, which was not hate my country. So,
well, I think there are so many threads in there, and one of the ones that sort of comes out of that for me in thinking about this and the titles that you chose, which are chapter titles from Moby Dick, correct? Yeah. And so, first of all, why Moby Dick?
Yeah, I chose Moby Dick because I knew it was an epic slog, and I knew that I was going to be engaged in an epic slog, and it actually, and so, like really with just a peripheral sort of notion of what it was about. I mean, just what we all think of it as being about, and also acknowledging that I was like searching for something that I didn't even necessarily know what it was, or if I would find it, or if it would find me. And so it was really that sort of vague notion that I had about the book when I chose it. But then I was really surprised to learn that it was very much like Melville's grappling with our country. And it's like he's kind of inspired or prodded or prompted by these, like by headlines, like stuff that's happening in the country at the time and in the world. And it's like the headlines are actually uncannily similar. So I was surprised at how many similarities and that I was able to find myself in Ishmael, the narrator, kind of as this almost voyeuristic observer, but then also as the monomaniacal Ahab. Like I felt like both of them. So it's like the meaning behind my using the book like just got richer the more that I learned about it and read it. So,
well, and I was just thinking a lot about when I was in high school. The only thing that I remember from the book and from our discussion of the book, which I'm sure was long and drawn out, is the very famous first sentence of the book, call me Ishmael. Yeah. And our whole discussion about that was about identity and how he doesn't say my name is Ishmael or I am Ishmael or my name, whatever. He says, call me Ishmael. And
That's
so
right.
you never know who he actually is.
Yeah.
You just know how he's presenting himself to you as the reader.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And that for me was so fascinating that's what has stuck with me in the, I don't know, when was I in high school? 25, 30 years ago?
Yeah, right.
And, but thinking about that and about these characters that were given in that book and their identity is so closely tied to one thing, right or wrong, and its intensity with Ahab and the way that Queequeg is presented, all these questions of who are they? Is it just what we've decided about them? And is it something that they are presenting because they've planted a flag on, I will catch this whale, I will do this thing, I will whatever. And so for me, I think that a lot of that, when I was looking at your work and reading a little bit about what you were saying about your purpose, was these questions of identity. Who am I? Who is this? What is this country now? And who are these people that I don't know, that I perceive in a particular way, and they might perceive me in a particular way. And the best way to find out is to be there and to create something new out of that experience.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of that comes through these. And I was also just thinking about that, looking at these works. And I feel that although we don't see people, I think there's one where you see a person.
Or a hand,
Or
maybe.
there's something, but there's all that question of presence in the absence, and that these feel very much like they have a presence, even though I don't see anybody. It's the life around them that I see. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that choice not to represent people directly in them, or how you see the identity of the areas come through, because as you said, you weren't there to create a landscape painting of Missouri.
Right. And yes, absolutely. And at the same time, like, I do really see them as being landscape based and not portraits, and not like figurative at all. So, I mean, I think place, like being based in a sense of place, is what draws all of my work together. So that's the perspective I brought to the project, is just the way that I always work. And I mean, I think that like so landscape I think of as including like libraries and beds and meals, and it's almost more of a like sensibility. Like you can kind of, like if you look at even abstract artist work, you can kind of tell if they're situated in a figurative way or a landscape way. And so I'm coming at it from a landscape perspective. And it's like, because actually Judith had another interesting angle on that same thought of like, there aren't people in these paintings, but you can tell that that people have been here, and it's like, I haven't ever really investigated why I don't paint people. I just accept that like place is what comes naturally to me. So, but I'm interested in like what I find in the place that I am visiting, but also what I bring. So the symbols that, or the things that like can turn into symbols are things of people. So then it looks like people are there. Like,
Yeah, you get that real sense of these spaces being inhabited and created by a certain kind of person, like a very individual. Hi. Hi, Samson. Hi.
Just checking in.
Yeah, just checking in. So, I've just recently been reading this really interesting book called Wanderlust by Rebecca Solnit.
Oh, I love her.
Oh, she's
but I haven't read that one, but I totally love her.
Really good.
Yeah.
But she talks a lot about the way that we experience places. And of course, her book is about walking, which is, a little bit different. But in this chapter that I've been reading, it's a lot about being trained to see landscape and how that became an art and a sign of sophistication in and of itself.
Oh.
So the way that we're trained to look. And one of the other things that I was noticing was a lot of the moments that you chose to represent has very much, it's your perspective, but it's also involving what you're seeing, what these people have created. So could you tell us a little bit about why you chose specific landscapes or moments, or how you went about that?
Yeah. Gosh, I think it's a combination of what was interesting to me visually, and what it signifies like on a personal level. So like, and then the paintings like actually start out somewhat faithful to the pictures that I've taken of them, and then they go often somewhere else. So I'm like, so I feel like the choices are happening the whole time I'm painting.
Right.
But I would say that like the moments or the places that I've chosen, well, I feel like they have to be a fair representation of my experience. So not they're totally not a fair representation of the place at all, but they're a fair representation of, so I am thinking that I'm having to choose moments that like impacted me in that place. So, and that are engaging, that I feel like I would want to interact with visually, or that I would want to add to or visually. So it's like there have been lots of, you know, places where I've had really important experiences but not ended up painting them, and it's likely because I felt like they were good as they were, you know, like as memories and as pictures, and they don't need to be paintings. And so some of the subjects are and can be mundane, I guess, to, you know, lots of people, but I'm loving this. Like, it's like awesome.
So I'm really interested too. I mean, the way that you're talking about these sort of filters, that it's filtered through your experience in that particular place, and then you have this image that you've taken, and then there's the next step of creating the painting with that image. And I'm really curious if you could tell us a little bit about the choices you make for, I mean, the colors are really vibrant and they stand out quite a bit, and also the brushstroke is a bit loose, which for me personally fits with the idea of memory and personal experience, and it's not usually a clear-cut photographic image that you carry around inside you. But that it's something a little
good.
but that it's something a little bit fuzzier, a little bit more malleable, a little bit more ethereal. I don't know. So could you maybe tell us a little bit about the way that you create those paintings from those images that you have, and how much of that, or just your process there?
Yes, I mean, I think in terms of the brushstroke and the level of looseness is just the way that I paint. But it is all intentional. It just is. It's like, let's see. So I start the paintings with looking at the photos, and I start with acrylics, and it's really washy and watery, and I will often choose a few colors like as the underpainting that so that it kind of comes through as like a colored light like underneath the painting that I always hope will shine through in places. And then I do more painting in acrylic, and then I move to the oils. So I mean, I definitely don't, I guess I'm avoiding like any kind of refined representation. I'm kind of realizing something about my process that I hadn't thought of before, but just so that I'm realizing that I'm not necessarily, I mean, I guess I am choosing this path that I'm painting. No, it's okay. But it's also what I'm avoiding, you know? I'm like avoiding like utter representation, and I'm avoiding like refined abstraction. So because I like am really excited personally by the areas where like the stuff that's supposed to be something starts looking abstract, and then the stuff that's abstract looks like it could be something. So it's like I like it when they can rub up against each other, and so I guess that locates the painting style in this, like in the loose sort of where it can, you know, suggest something representational, but can also be abstract.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting way to go about your practice, is that it's very consciously not one or the other, but then you end up with this that I think leaves a lot more room for the viewer to be interested and engaged, and to figure out what they see and don't see and how they interpret that. So So, and then back to the color choices. I mean, they're so vibrant. Is that something that you see in the original image, or is that something that you add on to it afterward when you're working?
I think I think color is the basis of these paintings. Like I think that it's what I structure, like it's what I build paintings on, as opposed to like line or shadow, or, you know, you can kind of see what an artist is building their paintings on, and mine is definitely color. And I think that the color is a way to honor and like, you know, show your original subject matter, and it's also, for me, probably my favorite way to make it go somewhere else at the same time. So I mean, color is my favorite aspect of painting, and it's my favorite thing to kind of like adjust, or it's my favorite way to, I guess, to alter the painting, like to make it go somewhere else.
Yeah, no, I really like that, and I like how much that color draws you in. And we all have our own experiences with color, whether that's how we actually physically see it differently, or just the associations that we have with color. But that vibrancy, again, for me, somehow links to that personal experience. That is something that you as the artist felt and saw and have created, and something that the viewers, whoever is looking at this particular work, gets pulled into it and brings their own associations, but also just sees that and responds to it pretty immediately.
Yeah, right. And I guess I'm also acknowledging that it's what I'm putting on the, I mean, it's another layer of my own subjectivity and my own experience. So these places don't actually look like this, really.
Right, like if you went there, that wouldn't be what you saw. So is there one that maybe you could tell us about, one particular moment that led to the photograph and then the painting, and just how that experience you chose? Yeah,
I mean, I could talk about this painting just because we're right here. Yeah. So this painting is based on photos that I took of the RV park where, so my wife and son and I drove in an RV for 2 weeks through Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and Wisconsin, and stayed in these RV parks. And it was just a beautiful field at sunset, kind of like lit up like tangerine colors, and there was this, and it was also just kind of a funky trip. I mean, like getting to know the RV, and my son was like, had a stomach bug, and that was fun. and so this is in Wamego, Kansas, and there was a Wizard of Oz museum in this little town, like a very like DIY kind of, like it's clearly a labor of love kind of museum with like little displays that people have made, and it was wonderful. And Asher, my son, like loves the Wizard of Oz and was super excited to go to the museum. And so, but the town is like, I mean, the museum is really like the touristic focal point. And so there are these totos, which are like the Pike Place pigs.
Oh, right.
So there was like a patriotic toto with like a red and white striped body, and then the blues and stars on his head, and then the RV park had their water pump was like wrapped for winter, like insulated with like insulation and duct tape, and tied with string, and so I kind of put these as, like, I made the patriotic toto into this kind of abstract thing, and it's got like the cowardly lion's paws. Those are what the paws are, and then the wrapped thing, the wrapped water pump thing, like, and that the hose from the RV, like hooking up, you know, to the water and sewage and all that. So anyway, so this painting started started from looking at the photo of just the RV park, but then I inserted these other like they become almost like characters in the painting. So
Oh yeah, and because that was what you had experienced while you were there, and it kind of all brought it together.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and let's see the title. I don't have my glasses on.
So the title is like RV park with wrapped thing and patriotic Toto. And then, so all the titles have a part in parentheses that's from Moby Dick. So this one is the monkey rope in parentheses. And so the monkey rope in Moby Dick is the rope that is tied around one person on the whaling ship. And then, so they're like anchoring the person who's overboard and like dangling off the edge of the ship. It's the harpooner that's like starting to slaughter the whale, and so the rope is what's connecting them. And so I was thinking of this golden rope as the monkey rope, like connecting these creatures, these characters.
I'm also really interested because that's the title for the exhibition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess doing this project, I became very aware of like the proverbial monkey rope, like connecting me to the parts of our country that I, hated, like when Trump was elected, and that connect us to each other. Like if one of us goes down overboard, then everyone does. And
and I like that idea that we are tied together in spite of these differences that we have, and that a lot of this project seems to have been finding those connections because they've in a lot of ways I think become invisible to us. That it's so disparate that we and coast and middle and all those things that we see, but to sort of find that rope and then to portray it and then to bring it into all of this, I think is really fascinating and just such a personal way to do it, but then to share that and to make that then available and visible to other people.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's like I know that my experience with them will be different than people who see the paintings, but it's like there is some like almost like, I don't know, intimacy with painting that I want to come across, and then some intimacy of place, like even if it's a really abstract thing, like for those things to come across as what I hope for, even if it's on a level that's totally different than my experience with them. And I don't think that people I don't want them to have to know all the details of my experience to find their own way into the paintings. Like I'm actually really excited by what people can bring, like what meaning people can bring to the paintings and what meaning they can make, like by looking at them. So.
Well, I think that's part of what's so interesting about paintings in general and about coming to them as an audience is that you will never be in the painter's shoes. You'll never know exactly what they were thinking or meant to do. All you can do is look at it and bring your own personal experience to it. And that is as valid as anything else.
Right, absolutely.
That there are so many different ways to see it, and each viewing experience will be unique, whether that's yours over time or different people in the same gallery together.
Yes, yeah.
And I love that works so well here. And I think that things we've talked about already, like the brushstroke and the color and just those filters from the original experience that you had, how you filtered it already, and then it comes to people, really opens a way for them to have their own experience with the art and have that individual perspective without feeling like one of the things that in my academic practice that we very much avoid saying is that you read an image because that implies that there is one interpretation that is meant by the artist that you are supposed to pick up on as the viewer.
Right.
And that there is a limit to what you're going to read, that there are so many words on a page. And I always get really interested, especially when people use text a lot. Like, there's no text in these, but with the references to one of the most famous works of American literature, you know, and all this sort of stuff that it comes in, that concept of reading comes in, but that it's not to be read in the one way. It's, for me, it goes very much back to that Call Me Ishmael. It's that you're presenting something to them, but how they receive it is up to them.
Wow, that's lovely.
Sorry to just to go on, but I really see that in these works, and I think that is one of the great things about being able to present your own experience, but in a very non-prescriptive way.
I'm so glad. That's really important to me. I'm glad that comes across.
Good. And I was also just curious because you were talking about painting being very particular to you, and I think that is very much like, this wouldn't work as well, or be a very different project rather, if you were presenting photographs or engravings or anything with that sort of mechanical side to it. And that for me, it's also it has a very visceral impact, the way that you have applied the paint to the canvas, which goes back again to that personal experience, that hands-on kind of thing that also triggers something in the viewer. So can you just say something about why you paint as opposed to...
I mean, I paint, why do I paint? I don't know. It's like I paint because I have to.
Because you paint.
I mean, that's just what I've had. That's what I do. But I feel like I can better answer why I love painting and why I choose it, you know, like I choose it over and over again, even though it's what I do. And I actually love the history of painting, and I love bringing it with me on, you know, like I love the baggage actually, like of there's so much. It's like, but it's all there. Like you bring it all with you. Like so what I feel most excited about in terms of the history of painting is, or one of the things I guess, is the relationship of the painter to the painting to the lover or the loved, you know. So it's almost like the painting is almost like an intermediary between the artist and the object of desire or love, or and so that painting becomes a way of loving that. So like that's super fascinating to me. And then like the history of landscape painting, like with the picturesque and the sublime and the pastoral, is like fascinating. And then like the sort of like formalized spiritual seriousness of like geometric abstraction, and so I like it. Like I love having opportunities to almost like reference those as like characters in the paintings and pay homage to them, and because it's like it's a party where they're all there together, like doing some it's a new party. Like every you know, it's like a new gathering of all these, like I can't, like it's all in my head and it's all in my studio, and I can't, like, rather than try to banish the voices, they all just come join the table, you know. So
yeah, and they're all participants, and they're all visible if you see them.
Yes,
if you recognize them.
Right. Yeah. And I'm only painting this way because I was exposed to that. Like I'm indebted to it, and I am like happy to carry that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that, because our professional experiences, our personal experiences, really you carry all of it with you.
Yeah.
You don't
Right.
eject
Yeah.
and delete things to make room for more things. It's all combined, and that is all the richer the more that you have to bring to bear on whatever you're doing. And especially with like you were saying, the history of painting and landscape painting, and how it was understood, and how it was created, and what was chosen, and all of these bring something to the table, like you said, that they're all voices, and they might as well come to the party.
Yes,
they're already there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I do really love that idea that everything is this culmination of ideas and viewpoints and histories, and I think that's also true with how you view our country. It's the whole history of the country that comes with it, especially as we recognize more and more parts of our own history. And then I don't want to use the word confronting it, because I think that's a very aggressive term, but embracing it perhaps in these particular moments where you can be there physically and then capture that moment and filter it through your experience, and then through the paint, and then let it out into the world.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you have 8 more paintings in this particular series. Can you tell us a little bit more about that next step, and maybe what might come after?
Yeah, so there's 8 more states that that I'll do a small series, just like I've been doing for each state. So I'll do a small series for the 8 states that I visited but haven't painted yet. So so I didn't go to all of the red states. My goal was to just go to as many as I could. And then even though Trump isn't president anymore, just to finish painting all the states that I visited. So I hope to be done with those 8 by the end of 2022, so next year. Yeah.
Well, that's very exciting.
Yeah,
so thank you so much for sharing all of this with us and for chatting with me today.
Thank you. This was wonderful.
Thank you, Susanna, for giving us so much insight into your work and your process. And thank you to Anne for the thoughtful questions and discussion. This has definitely given me a new perspective on the exhibition and the Red Country series as a whole. I cannot wait to see what comes next. We also enjoyed having Samson in the gallery too. Thank you all for watching. To see our episodes as soon as they're released, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also check out everything going on at the gallery by following us on Instagram at Rinehart Gallery. You can sign up for our mailing list, view current and past exhibitions, all at jrinehartgallery.com. And once again, you can always come visit us here in Seattle. Thank you.
Well, we'll just hope that didn't. Bless you. Yeah. Bless you. You can sit here. You can sit here.